The movie begins by showing a guy named Marshal Jim Dillon. He's the big boss of the police in a small and calm town called Horse Cave. This town is super tiny, with less than 1,000 folks living there. Marshal Jim's main job is to make sure everything stays peaceful and nice, and he's got a trusty sidekick, Deputy Matt Reynolds, who helps him out. One day, things get a bit wild. Two members of a biker gang show up in town. Deputy Matt spots them as they ride past the police station. He's curious and asks Jim why these tough-looking bikers are here. It's pretty odd because you don't usually see motorcycle gangs in this town, especially not so early in the morning. But Jim tells Matt not to worry. He thinks maybe the bikers just took a wrong turn and ended up in their town by mistake. Turns out, it's not just Matt who's surprised. When these biker folks stroll into a cafe, everyone's eyes lock onto them with suspicion. People are wondering what these guys are planning. One of the bikers, this guy named Shovelhead, causes a ruckus not long after they enter the cafe, begins insisting on getting alcohol from the cafe owner, Kathy. However, Kathy firmly states that they don't serve alcohol in the morning. Shovelhead isn't pleased with her response and continues to push for a beer. Kathy's had enough and smacks him with a bottle. Well, you can guess that Shovelhead doesn't take kindly to that. He gets all fired up and challenges Kathy to a fight. And then there's his buddy Jarhead, just hanging back and watching the whole thing go down. Lucky for everyone, Marshal Jim shows up at the cafe just in time. He steps in and stops the fight, giving Shovelhead a good beating and hauling him off to the police station. But he only arrests Shovelhead. Jarhead gets off scot-free. Jim and his police pals start to get worried that the motorcycle gang might have some bad plans for their town. Jim's got a hunch that something fishy's going on. He tells his buddy, Deputy Matt, to take Shovelhead, that's one of the biker gang dudes, to the bigger police station in the nearby city. Jim figures he'll stick around to watch over the town just in case. Well, turns out Jim's instincts were right on the money. Once Matt drives off with Shovelhead, the rest of the biker gang rolls into town. Sneaky move. Shovelhead was like a bait to distract the guards. With fewer folks watching, the gang could mess up the electric substation, making the whole city lose power. At that very moment, Jim's hanging out at Kathy's cafe, doing some friendly flirting. But when the lights go out, he starts to smell something fishy. He heads back to the police station to see what's going on. Meanwhile, Matt's still cruising down the road toward the next town when he spots a guy lying by the side of the road. Matt doesn't suspect a thing and gets out to help the dude, thinking he's hurt. But it's a trap. The guy's actually a gang member. As soon as Matt's close enough, the guy jumps up and points a gun at him. Now Matt's stuck as the gang's hostage. And that's not even the only tricky trap the gang set up. On the other side of the road, there's a cop on patrol who spots a van speeding like crazy. The cop goes after the van, telling the driver to step out. But surprise, some of the gang sneaks up behind the cop and shoots him dead. Then one of them, a guy they call Dirty Bob, puts on the dead cop's uniform and drives off in his patrol car. While all this was happening, Jim headed back to his office and tried to reach out to another police station for help. But those sneaky gang folks messed with the phone signal, so he couldn't call other police stations in different cities. That meant the town of Horse Cave was cut off from the rest of the world. Just then, Jim heard the sound of motorcycles getting closer to the police station. He rushed out to see what was going on and saw that the gang had rolled into town. Seeing them show up got Jim thinking hard about what they were up to. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice Jarhead sneaking up behind him, pointing a gun at him. Turns out, the gang's plan was to rob a bank in that very town. The gang leader, Diablo, was actually from the town, so he knew it inside and out. He even knew Jim really well and could guess what the police chief could and couldn't do. This made it way easier for him to set up the bank robbery. He was so slick that he even placed one of his gang members as a teller in the bank. Once the gang had all the bank employees out in the open, Diablo told the manager to help his crew crack open the safe. She took them right to the safe, popped it open, and let them grab all the cash inside. With the bank job a success, Diablo sent a bunch of his guys to take the bank employees and townspeople to a church where they were gonna keep them locked up. But guess who didn't have to go? Jim and the new Deputy Matt. Diablo wanted them to stick around. Turns out, Diablo had something he wanted to chat about with Jim and Matt. Diablo and his gang weren't just after robbing the bank. They knew something big was happening that day. A casino was gonna drop millions of dollars into that bank, and yep, Diablo wanted that money too. So they waited for the armored truck to roll in with all that cash. The two guards with the truck had no clue that the bank was being hit by robbers. Diablo made sure no one in the city could communicate with the outside world. As they're waiting for the truck, suddenly shots ring out. Someone's firing a rifle at them. It's a local old guy who's a real crack shot. He's hiding out and taking down the gang members one by one. The rest of the gang has to hide too. And in all that chaos, Jim and Matt seize the chance to sneak away. Here's where things get really intense. Jim and Matt don't notice a woman nearby. She's scared out of her mind and tries to make a run for it. But Diablo grabs her and makes her a hostage. He threatens to hurt her if the old man doesn't show himself. Turns out the old man can't let anything happen to that woman because she's his wife. So he steps out and begs Diablo to let her go. But Diablo doesn't care and shoots the poor old man right there. Diablo figures he can use the woman to control Jim and Matt. He threatens them with her, saying he'll harm her if they don't give up. So Matt gets really scared and tries to stall by setting off an alarm in the store they're hiding in. But that just makes Diablo really mad. He decides to shoot the woman, leaving everyone in shock. Jim realized they couldn't just confront the bad guys face to face, so he set up a sneaky trick inside the store. Then he and Matt slipped out the back while some of the gang members came up to the store. Cleverly, Jim rigged a bomb to go off when the store door opened. After that, Jim and Matt decided to split up. They figured it'd be easier to keep an eye on the gang that way. Diablo and his buddies didn't chase them right away because they were waiting for that armored truck. They hung out in the bank, planning to surprise the truck guards when they showed up. When the truck finally arrived, the driver got a weird feeling from the eerie quiet in the town. He sent his partner into the bank to check things out while he stayed with the truck. Little did he know, the gang was already in there waiting. They grabbed the guard and brought him back to the truck. They told the driver to open the back, but when he refused, Diablo shot the guard. Next, they blew up the back of the truck using some explosives. Once they had the money, they rushed to the church where they were holding all the folks hostage. Diablo had a plan to get Jim and Matt's attention. He took Kathy out of the church and intended to use her as bait. Around this time, Matt was close to the church, armed with a long barrel rifle. He was aiming to take out Diablo and his gang by pulling the trigger from a distance. But hold on, Jim stopped Matt from doing it. You see, Matt wasn't too great at long-range shooting, and Jim knew that. He was worried the bullet might hit Kathy, who was right there near Diablo. So Jim was gonna handle things while Matt watched. But Matt wasn't about to just sit there. He went against Jim's plan and gave himself up to Diablo. He was hoping this would convince Diablo to let Kathy go. But here's the twist. Jim decided to take a shot anyway. Even though he saw Matt giving himself up, he aimed and fired at one of the gang members. This got Diablo real mad. He told some of his buddies to grab Kathy and Matt and drag them back into the church. Meanwhile, Diablo and his gang were on the hunt for Jim. Little did they know, Jim had set up traps around town, including one hidden in a car. That car went boom as soon as one of the gang guys opened its door. Inside the church, Kathy spilled the beans to Matt. She told him about a radio stashed in one of the rooms. With that radio, they could call for backup from other police stations in nearby towns. Matt thought it was worth a shot, so when the gang was busy dealing with their guard, Matt sneaked into the room. Lucky for them, the radio worked like a charm. Matt called for backup. While Matt was on the radio, Kathy was still sitting up front in the church. She realized that one of the gang members was kinda off guard, so she seized the chance, attacked the woman, and grabbed her gun. It worked like a charm. After taking down the gang member, she told all the prisoners to move to a safe spot. Over on the other side of town, Jim was locked in a shootout with Diablo and one of his gang members. They exchanged shots for a while, and finally, Jim took down the henchman, but Diablo managed to escape to his car. He joined up with the rest of his gang, and they chatted about the approaching police from a nearby town. They figured they had to split with the stolen cash before the cops showed up. So, Diablo gave up on hunting Jim. All he cared about now was getting away before the police arrived. But just when Diablo was about to make his escape, Jim showed up and shot down Diablo's gang buddies. Sadly, Jim ran out of bullets just as he was about to take down Diablo himself. Diablo seized the opportunity and bolted with the money. But hold on, the story's not over yet. Kathy arrived on the scene with a horse and a rifle. She handed them over to Jim so he could go after Diablo. No time to waste, Jim hopped on the horse and chased after Diablo, who was speeding away on a stolen motorcycle. The chase didn't last long. Jim managed to shoot Diablo's bike, sending it crashing onto the road. At that point, Diablo was pretty much stuck. He couldn't run anymore because of an injured leg. Jim, however, didn't have mercy in mind. Diablo had caused a lot of pain and suffering, and he deserved to pay. So Jim aimed and shot Diablo, ending his life. And that's a wrap for the movie. Peace seemed to settle back over Horse Cave. Jim went back to being a cop, but now he had a girlfriend, Kathy. And that's how the movie comes to an end. So the moral of the story is don't underestimate the power of a small-town sheriff and his trusty sidekick. They might just outsmart biker gangs, save the day, and find love along the way.